Welcome to All Things Financial with Jack Driscoll. Each week, Jack takes on all things you thought were hard to understand about your finances and makes it fun, easy, but most of all interesting. From insurance to the best way to save your money and squeeze the most out of the dollars you put aside for your rainy day. And now, you have a friend in the money business. Here's your host, Jack Driscoll.
Welcome back again, everyone, to another edition of All Things Financial. What I want to go over today are these new proposed regulations from the Department of Labor on advisors and advising on retirement plans. I just want to make you aware, everyone listening and everyone watching, that there are new regulations proposed, passed already last year, and intended to be implemented this coming April 10th, 2017. That's only a month away. So what we're seeing is the current administration had requested that the DOL, the Department of Labor, postpone implementation of these rules. And there's a back and forth issue on will these rules even come into play and how will they affect you if they do? And how will they affect your advisors and what they're able to do also? Well, because it's coming close and because it looks like we don't still know what's going to happen, but because it's close enough, I thought I better go over this over the show and let you know at least what might be coming. The way it looks right now is the Department of Labor has regulations that are proposed with the intention based on that savers and investors in retirement plans, including IRAs, are not possibly not getting the best information and the best advice because some advisors may be choosing different alternatives or products based on getting a higher commission on one product over another. And the Department of Labor's intention is to make sure that all investors and savers for retirement initially are receiving fair and equitable and the best advice for the client's best interests, not the advisor or the agent's best interest. So that's the impetus of the rule. Now, what's happened is we are now in March 2017, and in April, by April 10th, the rule is proposed to take effect. It appears, as of yesterday, that the Department of Labor has agreed to extend implementation of the rule at least 60 days. And that's not even cast in stone, but that's very close to where we may be looking at a 60-day extension of the rule. I've never gone over this rule yet, even though we've known about it for over a year, because I didn't want to go over a rule that may never come to pass. Even though it was already passed, there was a lot of talk about the current administration, whether the rule would ever go into place. But it's close enough now that I want to go over it with you because many broker-dealers and many companies have been in such uncertainty for over a year and had to spend millions and millions of dollars preparing for the rule that many of them are moving forward with this fiduciary requirement, and I'll go over that with you in today's show, that they can't go backwards. They've spent so much time and money on this to comply with the rule that even if the rule does not formally go into place in its current form or if it's amended, many of the broker-dealers and companies alike have already adopted their ways of doing business to be more attentive to a level playing field on all their products and their compensation on those products, what advisors bring you, to be in compliance with what either is the rule or what would have been the rule. So I have a packet that I just received yesterday, so I'm going through this together with you for the first time and decided to do it over the air to get you some information on how this might look and what impact it might have on you. Everybody listening probably is involved in a 401k plan at work, 403B plan at work, 457 plan at work, which are all qualified retirement accounts, or your own individual IRA, whether they're simple IRAs, SEP IRAs, or Roth IRAs or traditional IRAs, the normal deductible IRA we all know and love, so to speak. So let me go through a little bit of this paperwork and the basics of what's coming to us as advisors and what's coming out to you in the press, and summarize this the best I can to make you at least aware of what changes look like they are coming. Now, every firm will be adapting differently, and every firm has a different proposal. So some firms have said the Department of Labor does not like commissionable products and are prohibiting any commissionable products. So many annuities, mutual funds are considered commissionable products. So you may see some broker-dealers or some companies no longer offering those as investment options or savings options, and others still will. So the industry is still in some turmoil. But let me go over some of the basics of the rule first, for starters. The Department of Labor, and I'm reading these things from you on a packet that is widely available, but I'm sharing information because many of you might not even be aware this is coming, and it will impact most all of us, whether it passes or not. Well, as I said, it already did pass, but whether it gets implemented or not, or whether it gets implemented sooner or later, or as proposed or with regulations. So starting off, the Department of Labor is a U.S. government cabinet body responsible for administering and monitoring over 180 federal laws, including those which relate to the minimum wage, working conditions, and all. But it also, one main body of law that DOL administers and enforces is ERISA. That is an abbreviation or an acronym for Employee Retirement Income Security Act, ERISA. ERISA has been around for a long time, but ERISA is the governing body and the legislation that regulates IRAs and 401ks, for example. So we've all had to comply with ERISA. But ERISA regulates employers who offer pension and other retirement plans or welfare benefit plans for their employees, as well as their service providers. Title I of ERISA, this goes on to say, is administered by the Employee Benefit Security Administration, the EBSA, the DOL agency responsible for overseeing a wide range of fiduciary, and remember that word because that's the one you're going to hear. You can Google a lot of this information. Your keywords would be DOL and or fiduciary, by the way. And it says disclosure reporting requirements for pension and welfare benefit plans. But don't forget, this is IRAs also, not just employer-sponsored plans that is affected under this DOL regulation. Now, the objective of the new rule, and again, it was passed last year, I think it was June of 2016, intended to be implemented April 10th, 2017. But the objective of the new rule is intended to create an environment where investment advice for a client's retirement account is always provided in the best interest of the client, as well it should be, with or without rules. The clients affected by the new rule, here's where you need to listen and pay attention. Does this affect me? You would be saying. Clients include IRA owners, sole proprietors with Keogh or solo plans, as well as plan sponsors, and all participants in ERISA retirement plans. Now, come on, that's got to be almost everybody. So you need to listen. That's why I brought it out on the show. It's time this is brought to your attention. If your advisors haven't brought this to your attention yet, it's because we didn't know whether it was coming or not. But now the brokerage industry and the companies have adapted and adopted new models that whether the rule is implemented in its current form or not. We're all going to see changes now under this new, what we would call, fiduciary environment. So how does the rule affect you? First, we have to see who's a fiduciary, because if you're dealing with any, what quote unquote, financial advisor that is not deemed as a fiduciary, you need to know that. So you know, is my financial advisor, do they have to comply with this rule, or are they not a fiduciary? So here's what they say. Fiduciary includes an advisor who is responsible for providing you investment advice with the care, skill, prudence, and diligence of a prudent person. The advice would be based on your investment objectives, risk tolerance, financial circumstances, and needs, without regard to the financial or other interests of the advisor. That's a vague definition, so we have to be careful. What is a fiduciary? So you're going to want to be careful here, because that's going to matter. And then how does the rule affect you as a client? Well, under the new rule, this says you will receive investment advice that is focused solely on your interests. So you can see how vague this is, but it's because it's published by the DOL, the Department of Labor, allowing each firm to comply with the rules in different ways, but with this intention. What you will need to do as a client is this goes on to say, your financial advisor will provide updates to you, which actually is what I'm trying to help you with now, whether your financial advisor, whoever you're dealing with now, is doing that or not, because the implementation date is coming soon, April 10th, 2017. Now, what's happening is that possibly is being postponed 60 days. The Trump administration requested 180 days. We may or may not get that extension. It looks like we will not get that extension initially. But as of yesterday and today, we're receiving notice that it might be delayed 60 days. There is a 15-day review process, and you can contact your legislators and go through the legislators and voice your opinion if you have opinions on this, or talk to your advisors or talk to your companies if you deal with them directly. But it looks like it's going to deal with your mutual funds in IRAs, your annuities inside IRAs, and guess what? From most broker-dealers and companies, because there are some perceived conflicts, you will see under many mutual funds a load or upfront sales charge, which is deemed to be a commission in some cases, and you will see others with a no load. So you have to almost look at the underlying investment securities or annuities or savings accounts even inside your retirement plan, for starters. But it goes beyond that, because many broker-dealers and companies have identified, wait a minute, how can we have someone in one mutual fund company in their IRA plans and in their non-IRA accounts and charge them a commission that's higher in their non-IRA accounts for the very same fund that's in their IRA accounts that they had to reduce the commissions on? So you're going to see changes possibly in your non-IRA accounts along with your IRA accounts. So it's going to change just about everybody and every type of saver investor, it appears like. Now, I'm going to flip through some of these updates that I've received yesterday and try to touch on some of these as we go through this. The first thing I want to point out is most of the DOL's problems and issues have come with the perception that commission-based products lead to advisors potentially giving you advice based on the advisor's best financial interests, not the investor's best financial interest, because they're compensated higher in certain products over other products. So the DOL's attention first came on commission-based products, trying to exclude them from being able to be offered to the public. So that was where it all started. The Department of Labor wanted, it appears, only advisory-based or investment advisory-based or fee-based alternatives offered under, and it started with just retirement plans. So that's based on ongoing advice that you might be charged an ongoing fee and no more of these upfront commissions or one-time commission-based products, which we'll see a lot of times. That's mutual funds, that's annuities. We see it in a lot of the product alternatives. So it would have eliminated potentially a lot of the types of products that were available to consumers if the advisor was deemed to be a fiduciary. So we're still seeing that, and that's why I said it's going to affect most everybody listening to the radio and watching on TV to this show. It's going to affect almost everyone. So some mutual funds are coming out with, let's talk about mutual funds first. Some mutual funds are coming out with a template that appears to maybe be a consistent template, and many of them are referring to them as T-shares. They may or may not roll out. Again, this is preemptive on this radio show and TV show to help alert everyone on what might and looks like might actually be coming that's going to affect your accounts. Now, if this comes, and you could talk to us, you could talk to anybody really, and find out what's going on here. You could talk to your financial institutions, but hey, what's going on and how will this affect our accounts? It's right around the corner. Whether it's implemented or not, your first question has to be, as a financial institution where I have my accounts, are you implementing new guidelines? Whether this rule goes through or not, that I need to know about, you should ask. I think the answer you're going to get is, well, yes. And then you're going to say, well, when were you going to tell us about it? Well, it's getting close now that you're going to start receiving notices and letters, because now the industry knows we have to start dealing with this. Prior to now, most investment firms knew to prepare for it, but don't roll it out because the rule might not pass. So we don't roll out something that we then retract, they would say. But it now looks like changes are coming. So these T-shares, these potential T-shares, have a levelized playing field on the amount of compensation that the advisor would receive for you going into a mutual fund, let's say, and the amount of load or commission you would be charged would be a flat fee. There might be a potential disadvantage to you as a mutual fund holder, because right now many of you might enjoy the benefit or the advantage where once you're into a mutual fund family, they have numerous mutual funds available, and you've already paid the load when you entered the assets or the income or whatever contributions you made into the mutual fund accounts on an ongoing basis or a one-time or however the money got there. It was already charged the load, and you could move around within that fund company without ever incurring another load. Well, now one inadvertent side advantage or disadvantage or whatever to this level playing field appears to be that the interpretation of the DOL rule is everybody that moves into a mutual fund, whether they're already with a mutual fund company or not, has to incur this T-share cost, which really means you might be paying a load even within the same mutual fund family to move from fund to fund. Now, we've always had the problem, if we're not in a retirement plan, of being very careful moving fund to fund for tax reasons, because it may incur a capital gain, unintended capital gain, where we're just moving from one fund to another fund within the same family. That does not pose a problem inside a retirement account, but it does in a non-qualified account. But we've never had to worry about loads or fees. So you're getting charged another load to move mutual funds. If you have an asset allocation model where they rebalance every month or every quarter automatically, you better be careful here. and ask the company in advance, do you need to change the method by which you are managing your accounts within these mutual funds, let's say, because you may be now, under the new regulations, impacted negatively or adversely impacted by getting walloped by a fee every single time you move your money around, thereby making your funds less liquid to be able to be moved back and forth. So double check that. So anyone who's on a systematic rebalancing, systematic repurchase, there are funds being grandfathered. So anything that you now have in there, supposedly, nothing is cast in stone yet because these rules can be amended, but the way they're proposed right now, any existing funds that you have right now might be grandfathered where you can continue the systematic. Now that means in writing, contractually, automatically happening. It's not by choice. You're automatically adding an extra $100 a month out of your checking account, automatically being deposited, or systematic repurchase, dividend reinvestments, supposedly grandfathered from this. You would also look at, well, are my 529 plans impacted? Or my UGMA or UTMA plans impacted? 403B and 457 accounts I told you might be. So there are a lot of questions that are coming up as a result of this, and I'm just trying to run through all of this with you, just to give you a touch on many of these things do come into play. You'll also see this impact potentially on variable annuity or fixed indexed annuity. Some of the annuity investment options may be curtailed or may be eliminated. So some broker-dealers will no longer be able to offer different mutual fund companies because they won't comply with the mutual fund shares. Whether or not, I'm going to wrap up the show with this caveat, whether or not this rule goes through, it's gone so far, we're in so deep to the time period where the companies and financial institutions had to prepare for its implementation. They're rolling out changes along with this fiduciary guideline, whether or not it's in the final rule or not, that your products and product choices are very likely to change. No matter what type of institution you're dealing with, whether it's banks or brokerages, you are probably seeing changes right around the corner being implemented that will impact your accounts. When you get mailers, when you get notices, now you have to pay attention to those. Do not disregard those, especially if you see the keywords on there, DOL or fiduciary. Please pay attention to these notices. Call your financial advisor. Call us. We will be holding appointments going through this, analyzing the accounts and which of your holdings will and will not be impacted, but which should be readjusted or monitored under this new fiduciary environment. So that's what I wanted to do in today's show, shed light on this, that new regulations may be coming, but new changes are definitely coming. And I wanted you to be a little bit up to date on the intent and how this might impact your accounts, so you know to pay attention and you know to be attentive to making these changes with your financial institution. Don't let them just happen on your behalf and be surprised or blindsided. All right, folks, so I thought I'd bring you that updated news, and we're out of time for today. Any questions, email me. Feel free to give my office a call. Otherwise, we'll be back again next week as the world turns. My show's called All Things Financial. I'm here to try to keep you abreast of all the changes and benefits available to help keep you current. I'll be back again next week with another edition of All Things Financial. Thanks for tuning in.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through SagePoint Financial Inc., member FINRA SIPC, and registered investment advisor. Insurance services offered through Driscoll Insurance and Financial Services Inc., which is not affiliated with SagePoint Financial Inc.